Hello, everyone. It is 5 o'clock, and I think we can start. Here in MS Teams, you are allowed to discuss stuff, ask questions. If you have any, write them in the chat or just make yourself known. Also, we will have a discussion at the end of the lecture. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you're only watching. Chat is also available. I'll try to check if there are questions on YouTube. And if there will be, please write them in and I will try to read them out. And this is our first lecture for our annual festival, New Media Art Week update. And this year we will be only online. So please follow the links on Facebook or on the website. And all the lectures will take place from today until Thursday, from 5 until 7. And if you want to participate in the workshop, please go onto the website and register for the workshop. We start the workshop on Wednesday at 2. And that's the introduction. And now I will give over the teams to our first speaker. And please, Varvara, if you're ready, you can start.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for invitation and also asking me to speak about such an integral part of the practice as prototyping that sometimes I forget to think maybe about this. Well, a bit introducing also myself. My name is Varvara GULJAJEVA, and I am working together with Markanet as artist duo. Varvara and Mar for already more than a decade. I also act as a researcher. So a few years ago, I have completed my PhD in Estonian Art Academy, and I am kind of researching through practice and practicing through the research, so to say. So it's kind of without a practice, it's not happening. The thinking, at least for me. I'm located and I'm from also Tallinn, Estonia. Soon you will see also some photos of the studio. So if you have any questions or comments during my presentation, please ask in voice, because I have shared my screen and I don't see anything apart of my own screen, so I don't see your comments or messages. So you have to talk to me if you want to ask straight away. But I will try to keep like half an hour for a discussion that we can discuss in details some aspects or topics. So if we talk about the role of prototyping in the media art practices, I think maybe this time we are more media art specific, and I guess there is actually difference between let's say other contemporary art fields, and soon we see why. But if you ask for me, like, what is the role of prototyping, then I would say that, the whole my life is a prototype, or the practice is a prototype, because really often it's very difficult to let's say to really point out, like, here starts the prototype and here it ends and here comes the final product. I mean, in design field, yes, maybe it's possible, but especially, let's say, media art or art and technology field, which is always kind of a risky business because we are acting in the top of, let's say, innovation and speculation about the technological age and development. So all the scenarios like artists imagine in their heads haven't been realized or haven't been realized by them in certain form. So it's kind of the whole process of work is it's in a way long-lasting prototype, which also by certain like critics have been named in several exhibitions that it's exhibitions of prototypes, and yes, often it's like this, and the prototyping phase maybe lasts through several projects. It's not limited to only single project, and I will also show this through my work examples. So all the presentation is based on my and Mars practice, because I thought I was thinking that this is what I know kind of the best, and I was really kind of feeling the whole processes, and I thought it's kind of wrong to put you whatever prototyping thinking diagrams here, because I don't use them myself. So I know that in many universities they introduce and students are heavily kind of using them because they think that this is what they need to deliver, like mock-ups and post-its and all this prototype thinking behind. I don't work this way. I think really often the prototyping process is kind of unconscious even at certain point, or it's integrated into the practice because there are many aspects what needs to be kind of tested before they all come together, and we will see in a moment like how it might happen. But for us, what is very important is this physical manifestation of idea to stay just on, let's say, idea level or theory level. It's at least like for me it's not enough, and it's also not enough for creativity, my creativity at least. I am also always emphasizing like my personal aspect, because I think for every let's say creative person is works different strategy, and you have to find it out for yourself. But I truly believe that also working with hands allows to expand the horizons of creativity, because I think we have this increasing gap between mind and body, or let's say or even the manual work. And especially even now when everything is online and we have to experience everything through our eyes, we start to more and more devaluate this manual activity, which also completes our thinking and gives new ideas. So in my practice, I really, it's integral part, and I need basically all the time to test and prototype my ideas without even having a clear idea in mind why I am doing this. And here is the picture of our studio, which is in Arts building or Art Factory building in Tallinn, where a lot of other studios, and I think the studio is something what is crucial for being able to create. And we have, for instance, here you see 2 Ultimakers, but we have like working 3D printers. We have 4. One of them is also Ultimaker, and we have our own laser cutter. And our and why we have and we have a lot of more tools. And when you ask like, oh, why you have those tools, why you don't go to a local makerspace and so on, then the answer is simple, because prototyping has to be fast and cheap. So for us, for instance, it's not fast enough to go to Maker Lab or to 3D print something in 3D hubs and then wait that someone accepts your order and so on. And it's not cheap also, if you are constantly like using in your work 3D printer and digital fabrication tools, then you just need to own these tools. If you use once in a while, yes, maybe you don't need those. But if it's, you know, that this is the tools what you're mostly using, then it's kind of better to have them, because then you are not questioning like, shall I try this part or not? You are just straight away moving to the kind of next step in the work. And also this picture, what I want to kind of break a bit the myth of some people thinking that media artist media artist studio is a local coffee shop. Well, our coffee shop is 100 square meters. So, and we really need it, as you see. So there is also a part of like software-based processes. There are also electronic and sculptural and physical processes behind. So it's multi-dimensional processes what are going on during the production. And also, you will see in the photos lots of cows. This is when we were in residency in Palma de Mallorca. Again, since they're like in our projects, they're never like one single part. It's always there is software part and electronic part, and then there is a physical installation part, and maybe there is also some sculptoric part, and maybe also lights and interactive part. So there is lots of parallel kind of parallel works going on, what needs to be tested and then later on brought together as a single artwork. So it's, I think our process, production process is constant mess. It looks like constant mess because there are many things going on, and but in chaos we see the order, because then from the chaos in the beginning, it's also in the mind is a chaos. It starts step by step to emerge the order, and the project comes together what we had in mind. So it's also it happens like everywhere. So especially in the residencies, you have to really improvise, and also I think in a way artists have this luxury to improvise and to get carried away by mistake or by accident. Because really often if we think about, let's say, commissioned or applied design work, or commissioned work, if you propose certain things, certain projects, you have also to deliver this. Yeah, I guess in artistic practice is this unknown process of unknown is quite significant, and you never know where you kind of end up with this. Okay, here is a first example. The Rhythm of City in 2010, and this is classical example how it starts with a crazy idea of the artist, and step by step we are trying to make it real. So I guess you know the classical saying, fake it until you make it. But in our case, like me and Mar, I think we really like to torture ourselves. We are like, make it or die. I mean, it's we are ready to do whatever, make like have as many sleepless nights as it takes, but we will make it. And this project, we got an idea. Or we got an inspiration from the statistical theory of Borston and Borston, who found a positive correlation between the city size and the speed of pedestrian in the late 60s already. So according to their theory, which kind of is very logical, that the bigger city, faster move the people, faster happen the services. And we were thinking like, well, how we can relate to this theory nowadays when sometimes, as you see now, the streets are empty, but the people are busy and they are active. So we got this idea already in 2010 when actually Twitter just came out with geolocative social data in their API. So we were using the APIs of Twitter, Flickr, and YouTube to get social media, geolocative social media from the cities we selected. And this data was composing the rhythm of a specific metronome of each city. And it was updated every minute, so you could actually hear and see the cultural pace of life of the cities. So what we did, I mean, this is, you see, the first version. Actually, we made a one metronome. Actually, for me was here again. Thank you for invitation. It was cool to check my. Photos like 10 years ago, like what we were doing, and this was a totally like first version using a Wittner metronome, a mechanical metronome, where we, as you see, at that time, hot glue was my main tool of working because you could like prototype really fast whatever you needed, but it didn't last, of course. So we attached here on the back side of the metronome the servo and extended its axis to get the metronome axis, which was also extended. And this way we were I didn't put here, and down was the Arduino, and this way we were controlling its speed. And so we made one, and we presented, actually it's in the conference in Istanbul. It was Amber conference, and we started our presentation with a metronome ticking in the real-time speed of Istanbul. There was a curator of Enter Festival in the audience, and after the presentation, he asked us what it takes us to make our installation to come true. So that's way we got funding to make our first version. Here you can see we got 10 Wittner metronomes, and we made handmade boxes and painted them. And well, we came to Prague, and yeah, this was kind of a bit in a prototype state installation, because we were young, we had not so much experience, and it turned out that after every half an hour the metronomes were stopping to tick, well, because they were mechanical one, and you know, the clock mechanism or the spring inside is finished every half an hour if it's ticking, and you have to give again to the spring the tension. And of course, for the exhibition setting, it's something unthinkable. So we made this exhibition, and I think we made a couple of more, because they were coming in a row, and we had no time to really kind of improve our installation in prototype state in a way. So we went to Japan for a residency, and when we were doing an artist talk, then after that came one professor to us and says, like, you know, you should use actually the hybrid metronome, which has, I mean, it doesn't sound so good, but it has as good as Wittner, I would say, but it has this electronical sound component that you don't, well, the metronome doesn't have a spring inside, so you just have to power it. So this part was kind of solved. I show you also maybe a short video that you believe that they are actually moving. Of course, also in video you can show many things, but maybe it's not true. But we are, like, as I mentioned before, we are this self-torturers who prefer to make rather the real videos than the fake videos. So here you can see also documentation. And also you can kind of think about every exhibition as a proof of prototype in a way, because I mean, I didn't show you the pictures of the first shows. The setup was not so great until we got to Brazil, and there was also architects who were doing the exhibition design, and then we got kind of a perfect kind of setup of the installation, which we now kind of replicate when we exhibit this work. So we kind of find the kind of the perfect setup we like for this work, and that's how it remained at the moment. I mean, technically speaking, okay, I try to get back to the full screen. Technically speaking, we also made some changes in the electronical part, and also the box, as you see. That time we also got access to the digital fabrication labs that we discovered 3D printing and laser cutting. So for us was like, yeah, you can get nicer looking objects with less time, and especially when you kind of do several of them, like 10, you want to have them the same and so on. And our servo motor was gone, which which constantly was breaking. We put the stepper motor, and we changed the metronome types, and also communication-wise, we did our own PCBs. We had to put also some power supplies in the middle, so the whole thing became more complex, but also more complete, more reliable, and so on. But I guess you are tired of metronomes, but our journey didn't finish with it. So the next project, we were thinking that we want also to have ticking metronomes in the speed of the stock markets. Yeah, I think, I mean, video we can look later if we need, or maybe we can actually. It's okay, video. Yeah. So this was also quite complex project, not only because of no, you can hear also. You can hear that. You can hear that they sound different. Eh? You can straight away say that it's a different metronome inside. So what we were taking the data from Bloomberg. So oops, now I'm out somehow. Yes, from Bloomberg. So it's a real kind of stock exchange data that normally banks have. We were lucky to get kind of agreement with them, and it's the ticking speed is not the price of the stocks, but the amount of buys and sells what have been done. So it's also the reference of totally kind of automatic trading system what we have now. But what I wanted also to say, like we kind of well, first of all, why we changed the metronome also was that we discovered that the Yamaha one, what we used before, it was discontinued. So there was, I mean, that's what happens when if you use in your project some kind of product of the market that it can discontinue, and in some years they don't have this model anymore, they don't produce, so the only you can get it is second-hand market to get let's say if you need one you can get, but if you need 10 it's really problematic to get kind of the same from the second-hand market. So here we were kind of forced to explore to get some other metronome, and we found the Seiko metronome, which then functioned with a remote control. So as you see here, it's total hacking going on. So first we learned how we can control with our own system the metronome speeds. Basically, with Arduino, we recorded all the signals from remote control, what it's sending, and we were sending the signals ourselves through Arduino and infrared light. So I mean, one, if I mentioned already that we, definitely like for prototyping and testing, and sometimes even the end production, we use digital fabrication tools, then Arduino is another main tool what we use either in prototyping stage or in both, also the final stage. And yeah, we were from once. I mean, again, it's kind of multitasking here. From one hand, we were hacking this mechanism, trying to make that metronome ticks in the speed we want to put it, and stops when we need to when we say to stop, and then also adding this LCD display. And on the other hand, we also wanted to do a new form. We wanted to kind of also give our own shape to the metronome. So this was, I mean, if you also, I think in a workshop you are doing this 3D printing thing, if it's something like aesthetical things, doesn't have to be in, it's a pleasure to do. But if the electronics have to fit and you have to fix them, and they should kind of click together, and also you should be able to open this object and then close again without anything really damaging there, then it becomes tricky. So and we wanted also to have them 10, and we didn't want to have the 3D printed aesthetics on it seen, like this layered aesthetics that you can see that it's layer by layer is built. So we decided we will, and we had a typical thing in art practices that everyone wants the stuff for yesterday, so we had almost no time. And we first and maybe last time, well, this was first time, never say never, we use this rapid prototyping service that nowadays it's more and more kind of available and accessible price-wise, that they can do you, like this was vacuum casted metronomes. They can do laser sintering, like basically they are like big factories that artists and designers dream to have access to. Now they are like available, and they guarantee you even 24 hours prototype, which is great. I mean, it's still a bit costly, but if you need to produce and you are sure in your design, then you can do it. So first, of course, we were 3D printing it ourselves to get our millimeters click on the right place, and then we kind of ordered from this rapid prototyping service, and then we assembled them, and then we shipped to the exhibition, which was just like coming next day. But still, we were they were working, but we were not happy because we knew that, well, if we need again to make some changes, I mean, we didn't like this remote hacking, and then also we thought if we need to make some changes, again, we are dependent on some Seiko metronomes, and then we said, like, you know what, we are going to do our own because we have so much knowledge already. And here is the next project was the Rhythm of Heart, where we did our own metronomes from scratch. So there is all the electronics are there, is made by us, and also the metronomes we did ourselves. We 3D printed in laser, in the Formlabs, and then we did all the finishing and so on. So it was a long process, but you can see that this, let's say, this strategy of prototyping, it can last, like here you see, for 7 years, like over many. Actually, I have one more to show you, one more metronome to show. So this kind of like idea in head, but constantly gets like shaped by different projects you are making, like baby steps towards the direction of what you actually want to achieve as, let's say, maybe like a functional perfection. And as kind of last metronome to show you is the rhythm of wind, since we are kind of we know so much about this all metronome mechanisms, and we see them when we sleep and so on. So when there was one land exhibition in France, we proposed this giant 5.5 meter tall metronome, which is powered by wind and made out of metal and old Lada parts like differential and one more, which I forgot the name. But again, like we didn't know exactly how the things should move, how the pendulum could move, and also how the wind should generate this movement. So first we made the wings of the mill too effective, that later on, like one engineer told us, like if you would have put with these wings, your metronome would fly. And luckily we got some consultation, and we made some changes, so you can see. Okay, we don't need this romantic music at the moment. But yeah, you can see how it functions. So it was in quite windy area, and it's a completely mechanical one. When there is a stronger the wind, the faster ticks the metronome. So we were thinking that a bit give a bit more characteristics to the wind, because we always just speak about the speed and direction, but never about the rhythm of it. So it's also completely. You can take it. I mean, we transported it in the. Oops, yeah, I went out. With our car, so it was like a Lego. You could take it apart and put it together. So binoculars, two binoculars from is a telematic interactive installation from 2013, which was a project of Connected Cities. And we had this inspiration or idea in the beginning that we wanted to rethink touristic binoculars, which are normally in touristic areas where you throw the coin and you can see the splendid view in front of you in more details. Then we were like, since we are also living in surveillance age, and that time was also the concept of Big Brother quite actual. Then we were thinking to connect different places, that when you look inside the binoculars, you can observe someone somewhere, but as a trade-off, also your eye gets recorded and gets projected exactly on the same place where what you are looking at. So people there can see also the eye of the observer. So it's kind of playful telematic, let's say, project. And yeah, here you can see the grid of eyes. Well, first it started the idea that we have to connect two cities, but since it's a kind of network project and there were many partners, and every week or two they were adding one city and another. So in the end, we had 9 cities, and the peak of it, we had like seven cities simultaneously connected. So of course, when we were kind of pitching our project, we were thinking that we connect two cities somehow, and the thing is done. But then when there were more and more cities, so it meant that we have kind of to produce seven sets of binoculars. As you see, this one here, it should be 7 shippable, installable, and functional. That the thing is up and running and working. So then we understood at some point that we need to do professional streaming, that we need to install not 1 server, or even 2 servers. And since we cannot be, we are 2 and places are 7, so we cannot be everywhere. So we had to install in advance somewhere, in some places, and we had to kind of design totally autonomous system that when it's powered on, everything starts up, and the stream starts, all the system sensors, so on starts. And so we did for ourselves a monitoring system, because, well, it's much faster to understand if the camera is working, because really often what happens in all this, let's say, media art exhibitions, the hosts, they are not always let's say, as skilled as they could be, and sometimes, well, people are calling us, there is a problem, but they even haven't turned on the computer, for instance, so, or they haven't turned on the projector, so of course there would be no content going on. And when in the festival there is a stressful situation, so you have to kind of be able to kind of monitor all the things, what is going on. And we had our streams. So as I told you before, like 1 camera was inside the binoculars and another camera was on this public display, what observers were looking at, but also delivering this image, but also was kind of then projected the eye there. So you can see, we could see which camera is on. If the stream is down, then we said, okay, why it's down, and so on. So how we started to work with this? So we had this artistic idea, but of course, thinking like how this binocular should look, which material. Well, normally material is actually defined by the budget, and if the budget is low, you can just dream about metal and just use MDF. And because, yeah, you have no other choice. And as I told before, the prototyping should be fast and cheap. So we first made, on the left, you can see from the veneer or the thin MDF, using the angles and so on to attach. So yeah, we could attach differently. Like you could also say that there are also this kind of self-lockable edges and so on, but at that moment for us, we thought it's faster attach with angles rather than start to design let's say the corners which fit together and so on, and then we could start to prototype interaction. So from one side, of course, we were developing software and streaming software, but on the other side also we had to prototype also the visual appearance and also the interaction way. For instance, just placing, you think, oh, where to place, because when you approach the binoculars, there was a proximity sensor, and this what turned on the stream, and you could see and so on. So you would think, oh, it will work wherever the sensor, but no, it turned out like if you have a beard, it doesn't work on the place we place, so we had to change and so on. So it's all this tiny tiny errors what are coming out during your testing and or trying kind of moving towards realization of your idea. And it's I mean how we work is that we try to break down the production process into different stages, what we can test in a way, because you have to kind of deal with many things in parallel, like does for instance, what kind of form, what kind of dimension, this is also determined what kind of stuff needs to go there. So as you see on the right, it's I mean, first we thought, oh, we will have a lot of space, but in the end we hardly managed to squeeze everything. And then when everything was ready, we discovered, oh, computer gets overheat because we have closed it into the box. So then we were by hand doing the holes for a ventilator and so on. So it's even if you break down, there are many kind of unpredictable aspects what can happen. That's why, like now when we have our studio, we have kind of a rule that for one week, I mean, sometimes it's a luxury, but for 1 week the installation has to run in our studio and nothing has to happen, or if it happens, then we know what is going on, because it might, like everything might work in first 2 hours and then something gets overheat, or some program get crashed, or some lights burn out, or you know, there are like several unforeseen problems might happen. And when there are so many, let's say, parallel stages, then definitely there is a higher the risk, and that's why we kind of prefer to test as much as possible. And also, if we talk about technology, then technology is designed for certain use, and I think like artistic use is totally out of the normal range. So normally, let's say for instance, the camera will work no problem, but maybe it's not prepared for working like 24 hours in the closed box, and so it gets disconnected or whatever. Then another problem, typical problem, is that for instance, Kinect doesn't want to work in Linux, the other camera doesn't want to work in Windows, and you know, it's like thousands of variations what can cause actually the problem. I mean, always in theory it works, but then it's like now Mar was like super happy that he could connect Teensy to Raspberry Pi, because you know, normally Teensy would work no problem with a normal computer, but Raspberry Pi, you never know what works there, what doesn't work. Here, well, we had the luxury to produce this project in John Moores University in Liverpool, and use the CNC router for producing the shape. I mean, this way we managed to do 7. I mean, the last push was to do 21 shipping boxes. This was another one. Okay, one more project where we almost died, so to say. I can show the video meanwhile I'm talking. Oh my God. Wait, I'm trying to switch off the sound, but it's impossible because I have this bar here. Okay. Did I manage? No, it's impossible. Okay. Okay, this is another interactive project, which is actually a public art commission here in Tallinn, which we completed in 2017, and we proposed kind of robotic creatures for the wall of puppetry theater. Which wake up when it gets dark and play the light game with passers-by. Wherever there is movement, it's a problem, as one kind of great technician told us in one museum, and it's totally true. So we learned during this project that especially outdoors, permanent and kind of kinetic things are complex. And first we were then, and the commission projects are also kind of more, especially the public commission projects are more complicated because they treat artists maybe as, let's say, the similar way as architects, like whatever you propose, you should realize exactly like this, and your budget is this, and if you never have done it, it's kind of difficult to estimate. Although we have experience, it's still sometimes we kind of try to jump over our heads, and but in the end we managed to do the way we wanted, and the whole sculptures, they have like, I don't know, 5 main metal parts which are kind of attached to another. Again, it's kind of adds the complexity. I mean, sometimes it's like if it's monumental sculpture, you just do one form and you don't have to think about like how to break it down, how it has to be connected between other parts in order to put something inside, what moves, and if it breaks, how I can open it, and so on. And I mean, here was also kind of in the end, you can see what kind of simple version, what is inside. Here is the reality, what was going on. Since the sculptures had so many components, we had to kind of slowly but fast, bring them together and test each, let's say, functionality. Either the sculpture moves left to right, or the light moves, or the light goes on, or the sensor. So we had to kind of create the functions, then test them, then bring them together, then put them together as a sculpture. So there was like a lot of steps that, I think, if I start to name everything, it's it will take me too long. So here is that we kind of was bringing this electronics together and testing all possible parts. Before then, these were the electrical boxes, what goes inside. I mean, when you complete the first one, the replication is just like, you know, enjoyment. And then finally, they came from when everything was like proved, and they came from the painting shop. And well, then you cannot change anymore anything. Well, this was a big process. The other kind of, let's say, well, the metronomes had this, let's say, the prototyping had really a long lifespan than other projects which I showed. They were rather connected to a single project. But this, our, let's say, knitting passion or project line is another one which has its own life, not depending on, let's say, our artistic practice sometimes. Well, this was kind of example, knitting when we started in 2012. We got this idea that we will knit poetry from spam, and we had no idea about knitting machines. But as soon as we got the first one, well, maybe the fourth one, because first 4 models were completely wrong, so we could proceed with kind of understanding how all this knitting works. Only with the 4th machine it arrived. Then we understood how big kind of a gap or the problem have the knitting field, because these machines were still working with floppy reader, and it was impossible to upload any pattern if you didn't have the floppy writer and reader. Of course, we didn't have any in 2012. And then we decided to hack it. I mean, first we hack it by simulating the keyboard through Arduino, and then we did our own board knitting when we took out the electronics of knitting machine and kind of communicated directly to the sensors and motors of knitting machine. But then this kind of tool, what we did for ourselves, it kind of took off on itself, and many people wanted this, and some startups, they kind of got profit from our open source, let's say, design or research. Another thing what I wanted to mention also, what is, let's say, in media art, I think very important is open source community, because you cannot, let's say, prototype fast your ideas if you have to, each time you have to start from total scratch. So by thanks to open source projects, I mean, even in digital fabrication field, you could really fast kind of advance in your project, because someone did, I don't know, one library, another one did, I don't know, some screw design that you can just like kind of borrow, right? So borrow or draw on this, and I think if I mean, we always have this philosophy, if we use open source, we should also contribute back, and we kind of open our project works as much as we can. And well, then we did also knitting software for this, that was kind of like we understood that there is community need is much more than just like, let's say, pleasure or interest towards our art practice. There was really a need for a new tool, let's say, like this. And this was like our first hack where we opened this keyboard and try. I mean, this is a kind of a strategy. I mean, if we cannot go straight, we go around, right? So if we well, there was one hack by documented by Becky Stern and Steve Conklin, which didn't work on our machine because we had different model. So I said, like, okay, let's simulate then the keyboard and try to achieve like our idea what we want. We also found one documentation of the workshop by Travis and Fabian, where they did the mapping of keyboard, so we could move like faster in our, let's say, in our process of the project. And then we managed to knit our spam poetry. We managed to upload our designs, although sometimes it took Arduino the whole night to upload one big pattern, and then the other day we were knitting. But here also I wanted to mention this unconscious processes of prototyping that well. I mean, we already know from that. That's why, I mean, we like also, as soon as we get idea, we like to kind of get our hands on the material and on code and on whatever it needs to start kind of realizing or kind of researching our creative idea, because you never know like what kind of shape it will have in the end. And for instance, we started our residency at that time, 2012, with just like a raw idea, saying like, yeah, we want to knit the poetry made out of spam emails, what local people will donate us. And then when we started to kind of work with knitting machine and hack it and document it and share our research, then we discovered that there is I mean, first of all, there is a big community behind. They have a big problem because there is a kind of lack of update to the production processes in the field. And we can definitely like contribute with our research to this community and more. I mean, from there on, I mean, later on, maybe I should say it for later on. And then, of course, when we didn't have, I mean, I knew how to knit by hand because I learned in school, but I didn't have idea how one knits on the knitting machine. So I was like following the YouTubes of the grannies and who knit on the knitting machine and how to make a sweater and so on. So slowly we were kind of getting also understanding or gaining the expertise in knitting. And then it's kind of concept they click together because when we were knitting and we could hack the machine, then we asked ourselves, okay, but what do we knit? I mean, we knit this like poems out of spam, but how they will look like? Because, I mean, if you know like a bit of knitting, if you just knit a plain garment, it will just wrap around and the other side looks ugly, because if you have the pattern, then you see this kind of yarns or loops going on. So what to do? And then it's kind of came pretty natural, saying like, well, the spam it looks like an email, but it has no function. And everyone who we said that we are knitting, they're, oh, are you knitting a sweater? I don't know why people have this immediate connection. And then on YouTube, there was massively also all the tutorials was about knitting a sweater. that it feels like you couldn't knit anything else apart of a sweater. And then we thought, well, we need dysfunctional wearables because it fits. It's kind of suddenly our concept became complete also. And we started to need dysfunctional wearables, which looks like sweaters, but you cannot wear them because they have no sleeves, and the hole for the head is too little. For instance, this one also, it has only one sleeve, which is 3 meters long. Here we also used laser cutting for doing our forms because, again, if you work with a garment, a textile, I mean, you have, otherwise it goes like an empty bowl, no? It's like you have to give somehow a form. And this one is the only one which you can wear, but you need a partner for being able to wear it. So we were doing kind of mini performative session in Malmö, in Sweden, when we were there in residency. And in Brazil, in Belo Horizonte, we needed a combi. So maybe in the photo it doesn't look like, but the whole car is knitted. So it's knitted as a dress. So maybe you know the gorilla knitting, that they are kind of permanently attaching to certain object the knitted garment. But here, since we are kind of very pragmatic artists when it comes to our artworks, because our kind of strategy or idea or philosophy behind is that our artworks are not trash, that we want to reuse them as many times as possible. So we knitted it as a dress in a way, because it has its own buttons, how it attaches and so on. And this knitting I also explored quite a lot, that a lot similarities with the digital fabrication, because the thinking works like laser cutting in a way, because you need to calculate your shapes like based on GOG, like it means like how many stitches you can achieve in centimeters, and then you calculate your shape just based on a small test pattern. And you have to know, like, then you have to kind of know more or less like, okay, where do I increase and where I decrease, so you can start to make kind of this shapes and in the end volumetric structure. So the thinking is quite similar whatever like forms you produce. And maybe I show also this video because it's interesting. So we were knitting, and everyone kind of clustered us by default into the crafters. And since we are also kind of interested in various ways in technology development, and that time was like EEG very hype. Everyone was talking about EEG, even not really understanding what is this. what kind of, it's like about when people talk now about AI, they don't really know what it is, but there are many opinions around what it is and what will happen and so on. So since we are kind of very practical then, and in certain aspects, let's say fearless towards technology, then we said like, okay, let's get this data, let's try to knit it. Why not? It's like, why everyone is just measuring their heads and doing nothing but just like steering on these graphs. And then we collaborated with Sebastian Meaye, because his research group was working with EEG and biometrical musical interfaces. So we decided, like, okay, let's make a session of Bach, record the brainwaves, and then we do a pattern out of this, and you can see what happened. So yeah, for us it was more like experiment, but after releasing the video it went viral on the internet, and suddenly all the blogs of various disciplines and magazines and all kind of publications, they saw something in the project, and we appeared like in Stanford University magazine, and at the same time in Craft magazine, and Woman and Men publications, and even the Furniture magazine, and of course technology blogs and so on. So everyone kind of saw something interesting for them, and then also we have before we received a request for our knitting board, then we started to get the request for the neuro knitting scarves, but of course they wanted with their personal neuro data and so on, and well, it's I guess our let's say our experiment was way futuristic, because it would mean that we go with our EEG headset to this person, record their brainwaves, go back and knit the scarf, and then send the scarf. Of course, by the time everyone will have their EEG headset on their desk, it would be easier, and when soft digital fabrication will be more up to date, we could kind of talk about this. But at the moment was like, well, it's impossible to do this. And also, like, for us, like, also with what was happening with knitting, as soon as it reaches kind of the product level, our interest, I mean, it's kind of too far from our interest radius. So it's I mean, in the end, in the day there is a limited hours basically in one day, and you have to choose what you dedicate this time. And if one wants to make a product, well, you should be ready to invest a lot of hours, a lot of days, and more. So, and we normally are not really ready for this, because we have other projects to do in mind, I guess. So that's why. And as I told, that for us it was kind of like experiment. So we did several ones. One was with the Bach music. Another one, we were in Salzburg residency. Yes, guess what? We needed Mozart while listening Mozart music, but also in the related spaces which are connected with Mozart. So, and we also choose different knitting technique and also the way we generate patterns. So it was different. And the third one we did while watching the football match. And well, our collaborator who knows a bit more about neuroscience than we told that, well, you cannot, you see more noise in the brain data than anything else. And yeah, it looks like when we watch football, our brain is not working well. Well, the truth is it's better reacts on music than anything else. And after working like for 3 years with all these old knitting machines and traveling with them and seeing that they are kind of breaking and it's difficult to replace and it's difficult to find the new second-hand one because they're discontinued and so on. Again, kind of similar problem like with the metronomes. And similar strategy again, because we said, okay, we do our own then. And when we did, we call it circular knitting machine, which is also open source. So people can download the design files, and if they have access to 3D printer and laser cutter and they buy a couple of maker tools, they can build their own. And we start kind of with this project, we started to push the idea of soft digital fabrication, saying that in fab labs and maker spaces, there should be also machines what produce textile and garment, kind of soft outcome, and not only limit to the hard surface objects. And here, I mean, definitely we know about all these theories of replication. That's the RepRap name is also coming from there. That the 3D printers, they kind of really started to push this replication idea and so on. You get one 3D printer and then it is able to 3D print a farm of it. So we were thinking, yeah, but why not to kind of one 3D printer could replicate the other machines. So it's also the design here is done in thinking that everyone could do one knitting machine if they wanted to. And people are doing. They are also inviting us to the workshops to do with them, to have more fun. And some they do by themselves. And also actually this, we always had this idea that we want to do replicatable knitting machine, but we were just kind of waiting for opportunity, I guess. And in 2014, one of the founders of Arduino, David Cortez, was curating exhibition in Zaragoza, in Etopia. It was called The Doers. And he asked us, oh, can you put your knitting machine on in the exhibition? And it would be cool if it would knit by itself. And we said, well, by itself, it's not knitting. But and then we came back to him and said, like, but you know what? We can make one which will knit by itself. And that's why we made a circular one, because the circular one is more stable than back and forth knitting machine. It doesn't lose the yarn so easily. And well, we received one. Well, we received several compliments for this project and prizes even. But I think one kind of the most what I liked was one when they said, oh, the knitting machine what actually knits also, because there are several prototypes which aims to knit, but well, they hardly knit. And when we do a knitting machine, it should knit. So this one was knitting on its first here we have first exhibition for 8 months. Yeah, here you can see also the knitting process. Yeah, there was 5 knitting machines. They were knitting for 8 months. I think we knitted like 50 kilos of yarn or more. So it was kind of growing installation. When you in the opening, it was like maybe 20 centimeters knitted, and then when one came to the final day of exhibition, the whole kind of lobby was, the ceiling of lobby was full of knitted tubular garments. So yeah, we are kind of sometimes also asked, oh, can it knit faster and so on? I mean, of course it can knit faster if it's stable. We don't know. So, and well, here is just a small kind of iteration of the mountains. I mean, mountain, why you need the mountain is I don't know if you see, it's here, the mountain, what pushes needles up, that they take the yarn and then pushes down, that they squeeze through the stitch and makes the another one. So it's a crucial part for a knitting machine, and it should push enough up and enough down. And these are not all. These are all these mountains we had to 3D print, and these ones they got discarded. They didn't work for some time for a certain reason, and from the first glance they look exactly the same, but I mean, in knitting there are every kind of millimeter or the half of the millimeter, it counts. So maybe just the difference between this and this mountain is just a half of millimeter from somewhere, and it kind of made the difference. And at certain point we were also making even like empty the rail, that we can see like where it gets stuck or where it doesn't push up. But again, we are coming back to functionality, to movement, like more movement. I think more kind of hard time is kind of making it come true. I mean, it means you need more time and force with the prototyping. And here, when, for instance, if we speak about fast prototyping and everyone is saying, yeah, 3D printing, super fast. Then I said, like, no way it is fast. It is very slow. And for instance, this, of course, you can make like less dense and so on, but for let's say mechanical parts which should move, you cannot compromise with resolution, because then the measurements are varying. So your millimeter is not where it's supposed to be. And if you're, let's say, with a less resolution of layers design work, then now you decided to 3D print with very high resolution one, and suddenly the things are not there where they're supposed to be. Yeah, it's just because of this. And sometimes also different, not sometimes, it is like Ultimate Maker will print different way as I print with Lalsbot, for instance. So they don't match. And for instance, this one mountain was taking 7 hours to print. So for me, for instance, when I saw that something is not working, I need to change certain millimeter there or here in design, which took me maybe 5 minutes to change. Then we had to wait another 7 hours to test if this works. So it's not fast. Yes, if you have tiny objects, or what we also like, what we are doing is we are breaking, like we are testing by part, if it's possible. Like here, for instance, it's not possible. And with this project, for instance, since we had to deliver pretty fast, the opening was happening like really soon. Then at that time, I think we had one 3D printer, and we bought one and later one more, because we could go producing in parallel. So testing if it works, and then producing if this worked, like a kind of, because we had to do also 5 machines. So it was really like our sleeping schedule was based on the 3D printer schedule. Like if we knew that, okay, 7 hours, then someone had to come to the studio, I don't know, maybe let's say like now is 6, then had to come like, I don't know, what is this, plus 5 at 3 a.m. or something like this, to change the print, and sometimes to maybe check it. So yeah, 3D printing, prototyping, yeah, cool if you have one and tiny object. If you have the whole construction of the thing, it takes time. So here are all the parts. Also, what one needs to build a knitting machine, the circular, what we call circular knitting. And as I told, this is one of example that it lasts. Let's say one prototype brings to another project. Then now we are realizing the neuro knitting Beethoven idea. Actually, you see how 2 things are merging again, where we are having a live music concert, and the pianist wears a EEG headset, and the brain data is then controlling a knitting machine. And also we designed a new pattern making mechanism, since it's quite difficult kind of to design this kind of proper pattern making, like we know, or we have this idea of pattern making with the stitches and different yarn. Then we approach this problem, let's say, solving creative idea creatively, let's say like this, maybe dyeing with the spray. So we are using water-based spray, and it is triggered when pianist attention level is high, and this way the yarn gets another color, and it's plotted into the tubular garment. The funny thing here is that we also we are using this really water-based spray color, and we also tried special spray for the textile, and it works worse than the normal spray, I would say. So this is also a kind of interesting knowledge came out of this. And oops, sorry, it's a bit cut there. But here I wanted to kind of show you also how open source projects they kind of feed the community with expertise and knowledge, because through our circular knitting project, then open source ecology group, they picked up the project, and first they replicated all the design files in OpenSCAD. So in OpenSCAD is a code-based 3D modeling open source program, where you can model with the code, basically writing the code lines. And the advantage of this is that it's modular, so everyone who wants, because now our designs, since we modeled in SketchUp, they are kind of like, if you want a bigger diameter, you have to go and kind of redesign it. But with a modular approach or the parametric approach is that you can insert the diameter you want, the needles you are going to use, and then it adapts the design files accordingly, and then you just can 3D print them and laser cut. And also it was kind of needed because, again, we have this problem of discontinuation. The needles we use, they are kind of really difficult now to find. And all our design is based on the specific needles. Then in their project, what they are doing, then you can use another needles. I haven't though tried their design, but it looks like it's kind of working. Like about reliability, or how it performs, I cannot comment more, but it's really great that they are doing this. And then maybe the final project I want to talk about is Humans Need Not to Count, which was commissioned by the Science Gallery Dublin in their exhibitions Humans Not Need Apply, and we decided like to take over the gallery assistant job and place the robotic hand, which has a tally counter and counts the visitors. So it's this kind of fear of humans that robots will take over our jobs. We kind of try to test it out, like is it really so, or how it will feel like, and also talking about very repetitive and manual manual, yeah, I don't know how manual it is, but the repetitive work what humans are still doing, and many at other side are waiting that the machines could do for them. So idea was, again, for us looked simple. Okay, we have to kind of there are different open source projects which you can even 3D print the robot and so on. So we said, okay, we 3D print the hand and we just modify somehow and motorize it that it's only pushes the thumb, that we don't need anything else. It's super easy. Let's do it. So, and then of course, first we needed to print all the parts, which took like maybe a week or more, 24 hours printing. And we also, and since we also knew that maybe it won't be so simple as first we always would like to think, then we started with just a palm, and to make possible to make this single movement. And then we ended up like redesigning all the fingers, because we need very specific position. Then also we were using this fishing knit, which for tension is not ideal. And it was, well, this was kind of effect, like it's worked 1 hour or 2 hours, next day it was not working. So we were like, again, debugging like what is wrong in our thinking, and it took us some time, and it took us many 3D printed fingers what didn't work. But we kind of keep many parts with us, because we are, first of all, we are hoping that soon there would be some recycling machines that from 3D printed objects I can get back the filament. I mean, yes, there are some projects going on, but still it's not, let's say, on consumer level. And in 3D printing, I mean, we like to build our machines, but we made kind of decision that in 3D printing, we like to be consumers of the 3D printing. Like since everyone is kind of, I mean, for us, we don't see like this artistic, let's say, enjoyment out of building a 3D printer. I always have been saying like, I want to have machine what produce me a quality. I am not interested in building my own 3D printer. I can build my own knitting machine because this is kind of my interest, and I know that not everyone is building knitting machine. But in 3D, and I have in recycling a bit in this 3D printing, because if I even try to build my own kind of plastic blender and then machine what produce the filament out of the plastic grain, it won't still be perfect for the 3D printer what I use now. And then there would be again problem with my 3D printing because the material is not good. So at the moment I'm collecting and waiting that soon there would be something decent like coming out, and I kind of believe also that that it should be, because there's so much stuff being printed and then discarded because. But this is, I mean, 3D printer is perfect for prototyping, and if we talk about prototyping, many kind of objects, materials used in prototyping gets discarded because it's you are testing, you are looking for a right form, and you want it or not, you will get a lot of like byproducts or by trash in a way, and it's a big question what you do with all this plastic. Well, what we do is some kind of discarded prototypes or prototype parts. They find their life in another project, and this was a fantasy of escape where actually, let's say, two trash sources, they found each other. We were in one museum in Germany, and I saw like in the pile of all the equipment trash, these beautiful cameras which used to guard art. And then I asked, can I take them? I said, yeah, it's like they are updating the system, they're all equipment and they don't need them. And then it's like perfectly fitted with our kind of 3D printed fingers. What I always wanted to do something, because it was looked like, you know, abandoned hands, or they kind of were asking for assembling them again. And we characterized in a way these cameras which looked art once. Now they are kind of part of the art installation, which also adds a bit of story or kind of fiction to the surveillance, that cameras are really almost kind of taking off and following us, and at the same time connecting with the liquid theory of Bauman, because they are taking the image of the audience and reproducing on the screens below them. So yeah, kind of in this sense, maybe to conclude is also, as you saw, prototyping is kind of integral part of my practice, and it's something what leads the creative, like production process, but also creative process, which completes the creative idea, and sometimes it leads also to totally another one. And yes, I don't know. I think we have a bit time for discussion. Also, maybe we can take some questions, or you can tell me what is your opinion. Or, oops, now I'm trying to get back somehow. Wait. To the Teams.
Thank you. It was very nice speech.
Okay.
And I have a question.
Yes.
What do you think? What technologies or field of technologies will be interesting for prototyping in the future?
Oof, in the future. I mean, there is definitely expanding the network of services, that it's cheaper and faster to make physical prototypes. And I know that some people are using also cardboard and so on. When it comes to the interaction, or let's say also generative art prototypes, then there are also, I would say, like, technology becomes more accessible. I think this is more, let's say, for the future aspect. Like, even if you look, for instance, Arduino, you don't even need to kind of download and run locally. You can use the web interface, and you can simulate already many things. And actually, when we do our kinetic installation, and sometimes, I mean, either we happen to meet or we go ourselves for advice if we are stuck to the engineers, then first thing they always say, like, oh, but why you don't simulate? I mean, definitely in the future there are a lot of more and more, maybe also understandable simulators, how you could simulate, but I don't know, we like, at least me and also Mar, we are this hands-on people who kind of I understand that all the innovation, it leads to like hands-free prototyping. But as creative persons, I think we shouldn't miss out this physical manifestation of the process, because for the thinking we also need to do. And if you and sometimes I also have done like many 3D printing workshops with the students, and some of them, they know very well how to model and so on, but they don't get the logic until they see the machine, how it starts to 3D print their object, and then they say, oh, okay, that's why I should design that I could a machine could print from top to down. So there are many kind of, although we are moving to very hands-free attitudes in many fields, but I think we should like fight more and more for the idea that every university should have their labs, every kind of maybe city or artist community, they could have the space for building their workshop, because everything doesn't happen only in the head. We have also this muscle memory, and how every designer and artist works is very often through different senses and also work processes. And in this sense, yeah, definitely we will have more simulation, more production processes will be more available and accessible, that we can also, like it's already now, that we can choose different materials and also techniques and simulations. And I think we will have even more, let's say, variety in this way. But who are in the big cities, we have to fight for keeping the space and being able to continue to work.
Thank you. And you sort of already touched the subject on the waste that comes with prototyping, because it's very hard to get something perfect on the first try. But how do you think how we could well, recycle more, especially the plastic waste?
Yeah, I mean it's a tough kind of situation, and there is no. I mean, I wish I could have like a answer that will change the world and save the world, but unfortunately, it's not the case. But what we can do as creators is to make our own choices. For instance, when it comes to 3D printing, to use as natural plastic as possible. Like, for instance, I mean, it's already years happening that no one is rarely ABS is used, which is kind of toxical material rather, and people are more using PLA and other natural, well, as natural as possible plastic, and well, it's also the aim of the project. No, it's doesn't make sense to print some toy just for fun, just to see how this machine is working. So it's also like for what is the kind of okay, we know what is the cost, but what is the kind of reason for doing that? If it's something that contributes to the community somehow, so it increases the value, is kind of more than the cost of it. And yeah, making choices with what kind of material we work, and how and why. For instance, when it comes to laser cutting, for instance, wood is pretty good material because we can, I mean, it is recyclable. It's also cheaper. The plastic is less. But yeah, in art, again, you want sometimes some shiny aesthetics, and you have to go for the plexi. I mean, it's really kind of a tricky way to go, but yeah, it's we have to find the balance. And also try to kind of push the recycling strategies, because when it comes to recycling plastic for 3D print, like especially like when we talk about recycling the plastic, the problem is that it's difficult when the material is mixed. But for instance, every 3D printer user of 3D printer knows very well what kind of plastic he or she is using, so it's easy to kind of convert, let's say, this not lucky prints to the lucky ones in a way. but yeah, I don't, in this sense, I don't know like why, because the innovation side on 3D printers, I mean, now maybe it's a bit slowed down, but in some years ago, it was really like every month was coming out new machine and some new players, and it was difficult to decide which 3D printer to buy. So now I think we can say that we have for desktop 3D printers pretty stable ones with a good quality. But recycling, for instance, like it's not catching up. It's in a way it's a question mark here. It's in a way like the same like with a textile or knitting. It's they used to be like super advanced machines. First electronic knitting machine appeared just 3 years after the first personal computer in '76. And then suddenly in 1996 they discontinued, and all the innovation kind of stopped. And still some knitters are inputting their patterns with punch cards and teletext and and all these archaic methods of human-computer interaction. So yeah, I mean, in this sense, maybe we can, as creators who are and designers who are in the digital fabrication field and open source, to kind of push also the machines for recycling materials. That would be interesting.
Thank you for your answer. Do we have questions from the participants?
So thank you. It was really interesting to see all of the work that you've created. It's incredible. And I'm wondering, as someone who's never done any prototyping, if you have any advice for beginners as far as what to avoid, what to stay away from, so we don't lose time in our process trying to achieve the unachievable.
Yeah, maybe avoid in the beginning perfection.
Okay.
Yeah, just to try kind of feel the idea. Just you can make it perfect later on, but try to bring everything together without thinking perfectly about everything.
Okay.
I don't know if it explains.
That's very good advice. Thank you.
But you can, I guess, from a presentation, I mean, I tried, it wasn't really chronological, but in some sense it was. Experience gives a lot. So it's normal that in the beginning everything falls apart, but then every time is a bit easier.
Okay. Perseverance is important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? If we don't have any questions, Varvara, do you have any last words or mottos to share?
Yeah. But I'm curious what you will do in the workshop. The students will 3D print something, or?
They will be using laser cutting and try to model something and then build it in real life. We will have 6 students in actual real life, and the rest of them will try to model from their home and then send us the models, and we will laser cut them for them.
Yeah, there is a kind of Corona time scenarios. How to?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are looking forward to new ideas of what's the laser cut.
Yeah, that's a good approach. To also, I mean, it gives a great feeling when you start to see your designs or ideas physically also. And it's, I think, well, it's kind of typical strategy or classical strategy of prototyping, like start small and then scale it up. It works, but then sometimes when you scale it up, you will have other problems. So sometimes when it works in the small scale, it doesn't mean that it will work 100% on the big scale. Normally, yes, but not always. There are always surprises.
Yes.
But okay.
Yeah, I like the surprises in prototyping.
Yeah, the surprises are...
I think I have a question for me. How quickly we need to decide what to make. We'll start the actual practical workshop on Wednesday. So Wednesday at 2, you will first start with a brainstorm, and then you can decide what to make. But I also have a question for Varvara from our YouTube. And have you ever been using cheaper Arduino alternatives? As a student, I'm torn between cheaper ones and the original. Which is better from the longevity standpoint?
Arduino, he means. Or sure.
Yes, well,
Arduino,
the Chinese Arduinos.
Ah, okay, yeah. Well, Chinese ones work perfectly fine. You just need to look that it have compatible chip. But you can always buy also the original one and support the community. Yeah, or you can build your own Arduino. This is when you already know what you are doing, then actually the cheapest option is standalone Arduino, that you use only Atmel chip. And then if you kind of build or buy the bootloader kind of circuit, then you can upload your program, and it will cost you, I don't know, 1 or 2 euros, so even cheaper than Chinese Arduino. And you will look cooler, probably, or at least more geeky.
Thank you. That was a good tip.
Yeah. Okay. Have fun in the workshop, and thank you for inviting and listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was very nice.